Good day everyone. My name is Karlo Sandoval from BSHM 1103. Today I am going to discuss about eliminating risk and hazard in the hospitality industry. Our learning objective are: first, identify the difference between risk and hazard. Second, enumerating the types of risk and hazard. Third, to understand the meaning of risk and hazard. And lastly, give the importance of risk and hazard. Before we go on, let me discuss to you what is a risk and hazard. So, what is risk? The chance that someone or something will be hurt caused by hazard. Risk is the chance or probability that a person will be harmed or experience an adverse health effect if exposed to a hazard. It may also apply to situations with property or equipment loss or harmful effect on the environment. For example, working alone away from your office can be a hazard. The risk of personal danger may be high. Electric cabling is a hazard. If has snug on a sharp object, the exposed wiring places it in a high risk category. In the next slide, what is a hazard? So, it is something with the potential to cause harm. A hazard is a source or a situation with the potential for harm in terms of human injury or ill health, damage to the property, damage to the environment, or a combination of this. An unwanted event is a situation or condition where there is a loss of control of the hazard that leads to harm. This is the example of hazard in the kitchen. As you can see, there is a outlet that is plugged in the electricity and there is a water on the floor. This is scenario may cause harm when the water reach the electricity outlet. It has the potential to cause fire and explosion on the kitchen. Fifth slide, I discuss why is hazard identification and risk management important in hospitality management. Hazard identification and the risk management is important in hospitality management because an effective risk management strategy is essential for member of the hospitality industry. Risk management help employees to identify, analyze, assess, and hopefully avoid or mitigate risk coming from variety of sources, such as financial upsets, legal ramification, accidents, natural disaster, data or cybersecurity breaches, and many more. In sixth slide, I discuss 5 steps of risk management process. Identify the risk, analyze the risk, evaluate or rank the risk, treat the risk, monitor and review the risk. Step 1. Identify the risk. The first step is to identify the risk that the business is exposed to in its operating environment. There are many different types of risk: legal risk, environment risk, market risk, regulatory risk, and much more. It is important to identify as many of the risk factors as possible. If the organization has a risk management solution employed, all this information is inserted directly into the system. The advantages of this approach is that these risks are now visible to every people in the organization. Step 2. Analyze the risk. Once a risk has been identified, it needs to be analyzed. The scope of risk must be determined. It is also important to understand the link between the risk and different factors within the organization. To determine the severity and seriousness of the risk, it is necessary to see how many functions the risk affects. Step 3. Evaluate or rank the risk. Risks need to be ranked and prioritized. Most risk management solutions have different categories of risk depending on the severity of the risk. A risk that may cause some inconvenience is rated lowly. Risk that can result in catastrophic loss are rated the highest. It is important to rank the risk because it allows the organization to gain a holistic view of the risk exposure. The business may variable to several low-level risks, but it may not require upper management intervention. On the other hand, just one of the highest rated risks is enough to require immediate intervention. Step 4. Treat the risk. Every risk needs to be eliminated or contained as much as possible. This is done by connecting with the expert of the field to which the risk belongs to. This is done by contacting every stakeholder and then setting up meetings to everyone can talk to and discuss the issue and give different suggestions on how to treat that certain risk. The monitor and review the risk. Of course, not all risks can be eliminated. Some risks are always present. The organization must make sure that they keep a close watch on all risk factors. Under digital environment, the risk management system monitor the entire risk frameworks of the organization. If any factors or risk changes, it is immediately visible to everyone. Monitoring risk also allows to ensure the secure and safety environment for everyone. In 7th slide, I discuss 6 types of hazard: biological hazard, chemical hazard, physical hazard, safety hazard, ergonomic hazard, psychosocial hazard. Biological hazard is a biological substances that poses a threat to the health of living organisms, primarily human. This could include a sample of microorganism, virus, or toxin that can adversely affect human health. A biohazard could also be a substance harmful to other animals. Biological hazard include viruses, bacteria, insects, animals, etc. that can cause adverse health impacts. For example, mouth, blood, and other bodily fluids, harmful plants, sewage, dust, and vermin. The second one is chemical hazard. Chemical hazard are hazardous substances that can cause harm. These hazards can result in both health and physical impacts, such as skin irritation, respiratory system irritation, blindness, corrosions, and explosions. The third hazard is the physical hazard. A physical hazard is the unagent factor or circumstance that can cause harms with contact. They can be classified as type of occupational hazard or environmental hazard. Physical hazard is include ergonomic hazard, radiations, heat and cold stress, vibration hazards, and noise hazards. Physical hazards are a common source of injuries in many industries. They are perhaps unavoidable, but over time people have developed safety methods and procedures to manage the risk of physical danger in the workplace. The fourth hazard is the safety hazard. These are the most common and will be present in most workplaces at one time or another. They include unsafe conditions that can cause injury, illness, and death. These are hazards that create unsafe working conditions. Fifth hazard is ergonomic hazard. It is occurring when the types of work, body position, and working condition put strain on your body. They are the hardest to spot since you don't always immediately notice the strain on your body or the harm that can these hazards pose. Short-term exposure may result in sore muscles the next day or in the day following exposure, but long-term exposure can result in serious long-term illnesses. For example, improper adjustment workstation and chairs. frequent lifting, poor posture, awkward movement, especially if they are repetitive, repeating the same movement over and over, having to use too much force, especially if you have to do it frequently, vibration. And the last hazard is the psychosocial hazard. Psychosocial hazards affect the psychological and physical well-being of worker, including their ability to participate in a work environment among the other people. They cause psychometric and psychological outcomes such as occupational burnout, anxiety disorders, and depressions. Psychosocial risks are linked to the organization of work as well as workplace violence and are recognized internationally as major challenges to occupational safety and health as well as productivity. Psychosocial hazards include those that can have an adverse effect on an employee's mental health or well-being. In 8 slides, I discuss most common hospitality hazard and risks. First, workplace health and safety manager. Second, manual handling. Third, burn and scald. Fourth, hazardous chemicals. Fifth, slip, trip, and falls. Sixth, electrical. Seventh, machinery and equipment. First common hospitality hazard and risk is the workplace health and safety manager. It is understanding what a health and safety manager does depends on a number of factors. For example, day-to-day tasks will vary depending on the industry they work in, the size of the company they work for, and which topics they specify in. Health and safety managers' roles and responsibilities can include but are not limited to monitoring health and safety risks and hazards in the workplace, advising employees on how to minimize or ultimately avoid risks and hazards in the workplace, first aid, nursing duties. Second is manual handling. In the hospitality environment, it is highly likely that staff will need to handle heavy items at times, such as a table, deliveries, luggage full of pots, piles of plates. This can lead to musculoskeletal injuries if they are handled incorrectly. For example, chiefs, cleaners, and waiting staffs need to understand how to minimize the health risks associated with manual handling. Correct lifting and carrying technique will be followed along with using mechanical aids where possible to move heavy loads. Third is burns and cuts. Hospitality often involves some sort of food preparation, and when cooking or handling hot food and kitchen equipment, employees need to always be vigilant of burn injuries to themselves or to others. Kitchen staff who are working long hours can become complacent when it comes to safety practices. It's important to make sure that correct PPE is always used. Proper care and attention is given to every task. Burns can be very painful and may cause red or peeling skin, blisters, swelling, white or charred skin. Many different types of hazardous chemicals are used in the hospitality industry. They include washing up liquid, washer detergent, rinse aids, drain cleaning products, oven cleaners, disinfectants. Many chemicals are hazardous because they are corrosive and can cause skin and eye burns if splashed onto the body. Way to ensure your safety when dealing with these chemicals are: store chemical safety in a lockable area and secure when not in use. Do not store chemical in the food and or drink containers, and make sure they are correctly labeled. Ensure that safety data sheets are available where hazardous chemicals are sorted and used. Ensure staff who are chemical are suitable, turn and understand the manufacturer's instruction before use. Next is slip, trips, and falls. Slip, trip, and falls are among the most common causes of injury in the industry of hospitality sector, particularly among chiefs and waiting staff. Food spillage, floors, and trip hazards all contribute to this. These risks must be managed to help reduce this type of accidents. Good housekeeping, appropriate footwear, cleaning up spills, and good lighting are all practical measures which can be taken to avoid this type of hazard. The next one is electrical. Electrical hazards are everywhere in business. A hospitality venue will be a small and large electrical equipment which verifying voltage supplies. The equipment poses a day-to-day occupational risk if not managed well to both staff and customers. If not maintained or used correctly, then serious harm if possible. Action to reduce risk from electrical equipment. Don't overload extension device and protect them conditions. Perform regularly FAT testing on all times. Sure staff only bring tested equipment onto the site for use. Conduct 5 years. Fix wire testing on time. Action facilities maintain issues quickly. Conduct maintain on bulk equipment in accordance with the manufacturer's instructions. And the last one, machinery and equipment. Many types of machinery and equipment are used in the hospitality and tourism industry. Example of machinery and equipment include slicers, mincers, patty performing machines, meat tenderizers, pie and tart machine, and many more. Mechanical equipment can cause sprain and strain, open wounds, fractures, amputation, and even death. The most common mechanical equipment injuries are the hand and fingers, which may be cut, sprained, dislocated, broken, crushed, or covered by machinery and equipment. All pieces of equipment that sit on a worktop should be on a level surface, secure base and positioned so that they cannot be knocked off. This is why many pieces of equipment are bottled to bench tops where casters are fitted. Brakes should be regularly checked to make sure that they are working properly. It is important that you follow safe work practice and talk to your supervisor if you are insured or have any concerns about operating machinery and equipment.